Voted today to take up a bipartisan plan that would suspend the nation's debt ceiling and limit spending, clearing a major procedural hurdle as lawmakers race to act before a looming default. With Republicans in revolt over the measure, it fell to Democrats to help clear the way for the legislation in a 241 to 187 vote that reflected a bitter GOP split over the compromise between Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden. 19 of the 20 Republicans who opposed Kevin McCarthy's bid for Speaker voted against the measure. Well, jury selection began today in the trial of Scott Peterson, the former school resource officer who remained outside of Parkland, Florida high school as a gunman massacred 17 people, marking the rare prosecution of a law enforcement officer over his response to a mass shooting. Peterson has pled not guilty to 11 charges, including 7 counts of felony child neglect, 3 counts of culpable negligence, and 1 count of perjury in connection with the shooting and statements he made afterward. Peterson was widely criticized after authorities revealed he had been armed but stayed outside. A jury in Los Angeles today convicted Danny Masterson, the actor best known for his role on the sitcom That 70s Show, on 2 counts of rape, but deadlocked on a 3rd count of rape. The mixed verdict came after a jury deadlocked on all 3 charges in November, resulting in a mistrial. The retrial lasted more than a month, and jurors deliberated for more than 1 week. Well, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie will enter the race for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination next week. Christie's planned campaign, first reported by Axios, would be his second for the presidency after he unsuccessfully sought the GOP nomination in 2016. Chris Christie will have some company because Mike Pence plans to enter the GOP presidential race June 7th with a campaign video and kickoff speech in Iowa. The former vice president, a longtime advocate of the priorities of traditional conservatives on social and economic issues, will join the race at a time when his one-time boss, former President Donald Trump, claims a majority in most national polls, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is in a clear second place. The Supreme Court is expected to rule this month on the explicit consideration of race in college admissions, and the majority conservative bench has indicated that it is likely to rule against the practice. But in May, a poll conducted by the Associated Press revealed that Americans seem to largely favor affirmative action in college admissions. A lawyer for a Texas man urged the Supreme Court late today to let stand a lower court opinion that critics say will make it easier for domestic abusers to obtain firearms. The man is at the center of the latest Second Amendment case to reach the high court after a federal court ruled in his favor. That court held that a federal law that bans an individual subject to a domestic violence restraining order from possessing a firearm is unconstitutional. You are listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time, and this is Headline News Hour. These are the stories that have people talking. And today marks the 1-week anniversary of the death of one of the world's biggest superstars, multi-award winning singer and performer Tina Turner. Today, I get to go one-on-one with one of the original Ikettes, someone who spent more than 50 years in a friendship and relationship with Tina Turner. I'm going to talk with her, Robbie Montgomery. She's also the former star of OWN's own Welcome to Sweetie Pie. She's a restaurant extraordinaire. She's a businesswoman, entrepreneur, and she is a singer, a solo singer in her own right. Talk with her about what it was like to be an Ikette in the early 1960s, what it was like touring with Ike and Tina, and what is the news media getting right and sometimes wrong about Tina's career as a singer, about her personal life, and about her relationship with Ike Turner. When we come forward, more on my one-on-one exclusive interview with Robbie Montgomery, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
The Ikettes were a trio of female backing vocalists for the Ike and Tina Turner Revue. But despite their origins, the Ikettes became successful artists in their own right. In the 1960s, they had hits such as I'm Blue and Peaches and Cream. In 2017, Billboard ranked I'm Blue number 63 on its list of 100 greatest girl group songs of all time. And as the 1960s progressed, the Ikettes became known for their sexy onstage appearances, their mini dresses, long hair, and high-energy dance routines that mirrored their mentor, Tina Turner. I am super excited to be joined today by one of the original Ikettes, restaurateur extraordinaire, a star of the own hit docuseries, Welcome to Sweetie Pies, and solo performing artist, Robbie Montgomery. Welcome, Miss Robbie, Aunt Robbie, beautiful Robbie Montgomery. So happy to be talking with you today. I just want to first extend my condolences because as much as we talk about Tina Turner and the impact she had on the music world, I know that you all were friends and you lost not just the world lost a performing artist, but you lost a friend. So how are you handling the death of Tina Turner?
I'm doing better. It was a shock to everybody that this happened to her. But as you know, she had been ill for quite some time, but you never expect your friend or your associate to pass on from the illness. But this had been going on quite a while. So she passed and we're all devastated. The world is.
I know you have been doing a lot of interviews because you have probably, you're amongst a small group of people that knew Tina before she was this big iconic singer. What's the question people keep asking you most about her?
Most of the time people ask me, did I know she was going to be a star? Nobody knew that, but we all wished for it and was happy for her to become the star. But nobody, not even she at that time, realized that she was going to be a star. We were all just trying to survive. We were a group of 20 people leaving home with these big dreams of becoming a star. But when we worked back in the 60s, we never realized or thought we were setting a trend or being what people say, a star.
And I want to take you back to, so let's go back to those early days. How did you first become, acquainted with Ike, with Tina, and become a part of, this backup band that, as I said, went on to make your own mark on the entertainment world?
Yeah, well, we were all from St. Louis. Ike was from East St. Louis, but we were another girl group called the Ardettes. And Ike had a song somebody had written for him called Fool in Love. And he wanted background singers. Well, at that time, Ann was called Little Ann. And so she was going to be an Ikette with us, which we were the Ardettes, to sing background with us. The guy and Ike had some kind of dispute, and the guy didn't show up. Well, Tina, who we called Ann, said that she knew the lead. So since we were already at the studio, the time was booked, she convinced Ike that she could do the lead, and he let her do the lead. And that was the beginning of, the Ikettes and Tina. We were, like I said, we were another group. We weren't the Ikettes at that time. And we called her Little Ann. Today we still call her Ann, but her name was Little Ann. So we went in the studio, recorded the song, and the song hit. So that was the beginning of Ike and Tina. Ike changed her name to Tina after the song hit, but she was always Little Ann, but to us, Ann.
Okay, so the song is a big hit, surprising, seeming like a surprise to everyone. Is that when you all, Ike decided, I know he's not only the leader of the band, but he was the leader of the group, so he was making most of the decisions at that time. Is that how it went down, like what Ike said?
Ike made all the decisions. I mean, he picked the songs. We picked the hair, and we picked our own uniforms, as we call them back then. We did that, but he picked the songs. We did our choreography ourselves. but the heart of the show was Ike Turner, and everything that he wanted happened on the stage. I mean, some days I would sing the song, just name any song, and then next week Tina might sing the song. So everything that he picked all the songs, and he told each individual, everybody was sort of a lead singer back in those days. So I might sing the song one week, Vanetta might sing it another week, Tina might sing it another week. It just passed down, but it was all his doing. He called the shots.
So you said you all picked the long hair, you all picked the mini dresses and the costumes that became associated with the group. Back then, that was pretty, risque for women to be dressed in short dresses and showing all their legs and showing skin. What kind of response did you all get when you would go on stage in what now is pretty commonplace? You go to a concert now, the singers are, wearing everything and little or nothing. But what was it like in the late 50s and early 60s to be on stage with, short dresses on?
Well, I think it was a shocker to people because most of the people entertainers, they use long gowns. And even though we wore the short dresses, one day we all wanted to wear our long gowns, which when we came on stage and they saw those legs, I mean, everybody had decent legs. Tina's legs became famous. I'm still waiting on mine. But so that was a shocker when we would come out there wild, thinking, slinging this wig, bending down our heads, throwing this hair back. It was kind of new back in those days, and I think people were shocked to see that.
Right. So, and so, like you said, you guys were trendsetters, and a lot of people have sampled, the music that you all performed, and you all performed and created this song called "I'm Blue." Now, was that a song that was done with Ike and Tina, or was that just the three backup vocalists who were known at that time as the Ikettes?
That was the song done with with Tina and Ike. I'm Blue, riding in the car, and just made up the song, and Ike recorded it, and the song was a hit. So that was like after the Ikettes had a couple of hits themselves. We had a lot of songs that were released, but none of them got the attention. So it was Ike and Tina. It was Ike's song. He claimed that he wrote it. So that's how it goes. He took the credit. He always took the credit for everything. And we didn't know any better. It was okay. We was just out there following our dream. So we didn't care if he didn't pay us money or whatever, but he definitely paid us. I have to clear that up because he paid us every week. We never missed a payday.
Now, again, people are heaping praises all over the world on Tina Turner, but back in the 60s, it couldn't have been easy touring as an all-Black group. I mean, you guys were going into cities, I'm sure, that still had racially restrictive covenants that, colors only, and you couldn't go through certain doors. What was that like? And where were you going, and what kind of reception did you meet?
Well, it was horrible to think back now, but during that time, everything was segregated. We played very few white clubs, but when we played them, we went in the back door. We drank off the black fountain that says color red only. We ate at the counters that said, we called it color red because it spells COLORED. And so we just kind of stuck to the script. I mean, nobody was protesting or nothing during those days. I remember the night that it was integration. I believe we were in Jackson, Mississippi, and we checked in a white hotel because we could do it. But back in those days, we weren't allowed to. It was maybe 3 or 4 hotels that catered to the Black entertainers. We would wait in the bus until James Brown and his group checked out, and then they would wait in their bus until we checked out. So it was only a few Black hotels that allowed, that we had to go to. So it was just common sense. Bobby Bland, Ike and Tina, and James Brown had reviews. And the hotels that we stayed in maybe had 1 or 2 bathrooms. They had the rooms, but we all shared the bathrooms and things like that. The restaurants, very few Black restaurants. And like I say, if it was a white restaurant, they had a door for us to go into. a counter to sit on. I don't think we actually stayed in there. We got our food to go. So, I mean, it was horrible now that we think about it, but during those times, that's what it was. Nobody
It's just commonplace. You just accepted it was just normal.
Exactly. I mean, we wanted to go into the better places, but we weren't allowed. And I remember one time a police stopped the bus and they would take us, give the bus driver a ticket and drive him way back up in the hills someplace, wake the judge up. We have to pay the fine or the ticket and keep on going. That was commonplace when they saw a Black group in a bus. They just kind of pulled us over and they went up in the hills wherever the judge was, woke him up, and we paid the ticket and continued to go.
Wow. Were you with the group still when this crossover started to happen, when white groups, Dick Clark and other white entertainers, started to notice Ike and Tina and you started to see white kids and white young people, liking her music, buying the music of Ike and Tina Turner?
Right. Well, I was there for a while. I mean, when we would do the shows like Shindig and Bandstand, Dick Clark show, the white kids were there. They would be dancing. Very few Black people in the audience at that time. So that was sort of the beginning of our feeling that we were going to get a shot at doing white clubs and things like that. So it was really quite a while after that they really got into it. Mm-hmm. But, the TV shows back in those days, Ed Sullivan and Shindig, and like I say, American Bandstand, that was our exposure to the white audience. So I was there during that time.
A lot of people know stars because of what we read about them, what we see about them on television. But I saw this really touching clip, and it's from your show, the show that you had on Welcome to Sweetie Pies, where you're actually watching an interview that Tina Turner is doing with Oprah Winfrey. I want to show that clip because it's such a moving clip. Rashad, can we show that clip?
Oh, look pretty.
He does.
Yeah, it was really nice to see Tina doing the interview. And guess what? They mentioned me.
There you go. Banana. Robbie was a support for me in those dark days. I might choke up here a little bit. Robbie was like a sister when she was an Ikette. And times when I didn't have money, Robbie would always loan me money. But really? Yeah, I had to give it back. But, I didn't have my own. And Robbie knew that I would, but she didn't know how because Ike didn't give me money. And when Robbie left, I missed her so much. I don't mean to cry, Robbie, but it comes out. Robbie and I were very close.
That's what I said. I felt like we had left her by herself. When I saw Tina do her interview and she mentioned me and she kind of teared up, I broke down because we got a lot of history together. Look pretty.
He does.
Wow, that is such a powerful interview. I've watched it so many times, and she said in the dark days you were there for her.
Yeah, and as even seeing it now is touching, but I left her. I always felt guilty about leaving her there because we were like sisters, and she was like the type of woman. She was strong-willed. She knew what she wanted, and she didn't want us telling her every time something went wrong. Why don't you leave? Why don't you leave? So finally, one day she said, I'm going to do what I do when it's time. And she didn't want us talking to her about leaving. So it was just really devastating to leave her there because her sister, Aline, left with us and Rhonda stayed with Tina. But it was just really, really heartbreaking to hear her say that, even though I knew we loved each other, but I always felt guilty about leaving her there. It's like leaving your sister behind and you know what's happening in her life, but you can't protect somebody that's comfortable in what she had her own way. She knew what she was going to do. So she's like,
Right.
don't tell me, don't you all talk to me about leaving, because when the time comes, I will leave. And that's what she did.
So we got exposed to a lot of what you're referring, these dark times, you know, the dark days that she was talking about in that interview through that movie, What's Love Got to Do with It, where we saw, you know, domestic violence, the brutality of some of the violence that she suffered while she was still married to Ike. What was it like? And did you all, as members of the band, did you witness, you know, we know movies are fictionalized, so we know there was a lot of fictionalized parts to that movie, but talk about what
actually, I was there quite a while, and we knew this was happening, but it never happened in front of us. So some people say they saw it. I never witnessed it. I witnessed the after fact, and you know, where she was trying to patch it up or, you know, cover up her eye or something like that. But I never actually saw him hit her. But we knew it. It's just like if you have a car wreck, the next day you see him bruised up, you know something happened. And it was kind of unspoken. We didn't talk about it, because like she said, when the time came, she was going to leave, and we just stopped talking about it.
Mm-hmm. How, you know, when we think about domestic violence today, you know, we think about all the rights that women have, all the opportunities that women have to get out of bad relationships, all the resources that are available. But what was it like in the 60s if you were a Black woman in a relationship where there was domestic violence? How easy was it to get out of a relationship, and where would you go and what would you do?
Exactly. I mean, those resources wasn't there in those times. And like, that was her life. That's her house, her everything. So you have to really think about what you're going to do, because you're giving up all of this. And I don't know if it was better than the life she left, you know, but at that time she knew what she was doing, and she had her own plans. And when it came, like I keep saying that, so when the time came, she always said that she was going to leave him, but she was waiting. Ike was sort of an insecure guy, and she didn't want to leave him. And he kind of put it on her that, yeah, I know you're going to leave me like everybody else did. So she was sympathetic to that and stayed longer than she should have, to my opinion. But I guess in her life, it was, you know, the right time. So when that happened, and she decided that she was going to leave, I mean, she left. So we
on her terms, like you said, on her terms.
Exactly.
Right.
She was fed up.
When she was fed up, right. When we come forward, I want to talk about what was life like for you after you did leave the group. And what do you think Tina would want her legacy to be, given the long-term relationship that you all had? Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday morning,
detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday morning.
I'm back, and in this hour, I am joined by one of the original Ikettes, restaurateur extraordinaire, a star of the OWN docuseries Welcome to Sweetie Pie, solo performing artist, and all-around fabulous Robbie Montgomery. So, Robbie, we're talking about Tina Turner, her death, her legacy, her life. I heard a couple of interviews that she did where she talked about how she felt this country in some ways had betrayed her, how that movie, What's Love Got to Do with It, ended up in some ways, you know, particular groups of people, particularly male rappers, lionized and idolized Ike Turner afterwards, using a lot of the words that he used in that movie in their lyrics and their songs. And she was seen as in some ways as this punching bag. How difficult do you think it was for her to have that domestic violence exposed like it was in that movie? And then every interview she did, everyone just kept asking her over and over and over and over again about Ike. Even after she had moved on and gotten married to someone else, everyone just wanted to talk about him.
Right. I think it was probably devastating to her, because at this point in her life, she exposed the battery and things that she was going through, and then people to take it and make a mockery out of it. I'm sure she was extremely hurt of this, because it's kind of hard to tell what happened to you in your life, in your past. And once you decide to do this, and the tables kind of turn where people was exploiting the things that happened in the movie, which a lot of them wasn't true. And she kind of admitted to some of the things being true, some of them not. But I'm sure it was devastating. I mean, it wasn't me, but I'm sure it was devastating. You know, some of your past you don't want to reveal. And if you do, and people make fun of it, then that's got to be hurting.
Yeah, and I think one of the things she talked about was she wanted to talk about her music. She wanted to talk about
Right.
her sound, what she was doing,
Right.
concerts, and every interview, people just kept rehashing every
Because,
detail of that relationship. And he had even at some point he had died. He wasn't even alive.
Right. Right.
But yet
I mean,
they kept bringing it up.
Yeah, garbage makes good news. I mean, we always used to say we don't pick up our own garbage, but when people pick it up and turn it into what is justifiable for them to suit their things to hurt people, because she really did not want to talk about that. Her music was all that she loved to do, and her opportunities to become the star that she was. She wanted to leave that past alone in her life. And that's why I was so hurt, not hurt, but honored, and to hear her say the things about me that she said, because I'm a part of her past. And if you hear somebody that wants to leave their past alone, you think, well, wow, they don't want to have nothing to do with me because I'm a part of her past. So when I heard her say what she said, I broke down because I already was feeling guilty about leaving her, and to hear her say that, I mean, it was just devastating to me. So, some things about your past, in fact, a lot of things that she and I shared together, I would never share with anybody. Like the situation about the money, I would have never said that. I would have never in a million years, because it wasn't that kind of money. In fact, I would have died with it, but she said it. I never said it. So certain things that we share together, I'll never tell because this is between us. And I would never say anything to hurt her or harmful, towards her. So I do understand that she was devastated when that happened.
Even her family, I watched that documentary, the HBO documentary. We don't know much about her as a mother. Tell us about, Tina, the mother, not just the iconic singer, but how many kids did she have and what was her relationship like with her children?
Tina had 2 kids. She had one kid by Ike, and she had Craig, which was her oldest kid, but she also had 2 kids that Ike fathered, which were her kids. So we always say she had 4 kids. Her time was so limited that she didn't really have time to be a mother. But when she was around, she was loving, cuddling, trying to do as much as she could, which her time was just consumed with Ike and Tina Turner Review. She did not really have time to be a mother, but at the times that she could, I thought she was a great mom. She's always had housekeepers.
Tragically, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to say, ironically, they had nannies and housekeepers and stuff like that. So the boys were always provided and always had somebody there with them at all times. So she didn't have the opportunity to be the mom. And she took them out on the road with her, working with her at some point, and it didn't work out, So she did everything that she could possibly do to be a great mom. But if you're busy like that and your business, consumes all your time, it's kind of hard.
People don't oftentimes realize the kind of sacrifices someone at that level, or to get to that level,
exactly,
the kind of personal sacrifices they have to make. And her sons, they died tragically, right? Passed away before she did.
Right, exactly. And her sister and her mom. Her mom passed first, and then Aline passed, which was her sister, next, and then the boys, Craig died. I think Craig, died really, really tragic. I think he committed suicide. And then Ronnie, who just died maybe about 5 or 6 months ago. And then she's, deceased now. So it's tragic. Yeah, it's tragic. The whole family is wiped out. She does have a niece, Jackie, in LA now. And Jackie's got about 5 kids. Plus Ronnie, her son Ronnie had about 4 or 5 kids, and they're in LA. So that's the extent of her family that I know of.
What do you think she would want people to remember her by? Or what would she want her legacy to be? You know, everybody knows the songs. Like you said, you talked about her legs, the gorgeous legs, the beautiful costumes, the hair. I mean, there's so many trends that women follow, particularly performers. You know, you can look at Beyonce, you can look at so many performers, and you can see pieces of Tina Turner in the way that she performed. But what do you think she would really want people to remember her?
I think she would want people to remember her as being a trendsetter, not so much as for her music, but being a woman that stood up for what she wanted, fought for it, and got it. You know, I mean, like never give up, because it can always happen to you. And I think that's what she would like for her legacy to be, inspiring to women that's going through the same thing she went through, you can overcome. And so I think that's what she really wanted.
Yeah, you know, again, we don't know which parts of that movie were fiction and which were true, but that scene in the courtroom where she tells the judge, I just want to keep my name, and she goes out with her name and rebuilds her career is like, you know, the ultimate feminist gangster move that any woman, like I said, no matter what you've been through, can just appreciate and respect somebody having been through so much, saying, you know what, leave all that stuff behind. It doesn't matter. I'll go out and start over.
Right. And that's, most people would think, well, take all this money. She didn't want that. She had a vision of becoming her own self. She could do it, but you don't know for sure, but you're willing to take that chance. Let him have all that material stuff. But she wanted her name because that's what she was known for. And what was he going to do with the name? He wasn't Tina Turner. So, you know, I think that that was a smart move on her part. And I think she wants people to know that you can do it like I did it, because it's frightening to be on your own. I remember when we left the Ikettes, we didn't know what we were going to do, but just the joy and the pressure off of us being an Ikette, we had the opportunity to do our own thing, whether we made it or not. So I'm sure that's how she felt when she's like, well, give me my name. That's all I want is my name, because that name meant more than money. Right. She could make, you know, keep going with that name.
Wait a minute, Rashad, you just threw a picture up there where I saw Miss Robbie with some absolutely gorgeous legs. So you said you waiting on your legs. You had them legs.
Well, my legs never became famous. I'm known for chicken.
Well, they looking pretty good on that photograph. When we come forward, I want to talk about all of the success that you have had. I mean, we've been talking about Tina Turner, and I just love how you respect her as a woman and as a friend. But you also have had just an incredible career, not just performing with this iconic group, but in your own right as a singer, as a restaurateur, as a reality docuseries star. You are an amazing woman. I want to get into some of the things that you have done and what you're up to and what's next for Robbie Montgomery right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Would interview me where Phil Donahue.
I'm back, and I am talking with solo performing artist, restaurateur extraordinaire, star of Owns, Welcome to Sweetie Pies, and an original Ikette, Robbie Montgomery. So at some point, you left the Ikettes, and you talked about it being scary and not knowing what you would do after leaving the group. Tell us, what was life like for you after the Ikettes?
Well, after the Ikettes, I went to do background for other entertainers that were, using girls. But right during that time, all the acts, white acts, started using black background singers. So it was like a little clique. And if you got in that clique, you could survive. So that's what I did. I went with, after Ike and Tina, Jerry Waxler, who was the president of Atlantic Records at that time, offered me a job with Dr. John and to become one of his night trippers. And so I took that gig and went on, and through him, I met Mick Jagger. We sang background for them. So we met other artists and got into that little mode of putting background for all the white singers and everybody that needed background. Football players, they sang, they thought they could sing. We provided the background. So that was a survival mode, because being on my own, we had been sheltered, and Ike was like a father to us, and he took care of us. So being stricken out on my own was really, really frightening for the Ikettes. And every place we would book a show, Ike would serve the box office with an injunction. So they would kick us off the shows because they didn't want to fight with Ike. So we were out on the road just piddling from concert to come. Back in those days, they had groups. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. Why would he serve you with an injunction?
Because we left. We left and used the name Ikettes. So because we were the Ikettes, we didn't know any better. We didn't know we couldn't use it. So when we would go out on the tours, like the big tours that have maybe 10 groups or something, Ike would tie up the box office. And the promoters didn't want to deal with that, fighting with him. So we'd have to end our tour and try to find another gig. And that was our survival mode back in those days. We just kept going. We never became successful as Ikettes because it was his name. He owned the name and we couldn't use it. So we went to another label called Mirwood, and they offered us a contract, and we signed it right there. And they're like, well, what are you going to use for your name? We didn't have a name because we didn't know. So we called ourselves the Murettes after the label. So we had a couple of songs out as the Murettes, and then we just all started going different ways to survive, singing behind this person, singing behind that person. We did that for so long. Then my health, I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis back in the 70s. And so I decided to come home. And during my time at home, I trained as a technician to administer dialysis for one of our larger hospitals here. And I did that for a while. And then it was like, I got to a salary cap and I couldn't go any further. So I'm like, well, I got to do something. I know how to cook because on the road, I would cook for everybody. My mom had 9 kids. I knew how to cook. And when we would get the opportunity to have a motel or a kitchenette, I would do the cooking. Mm-hmm. So when I got to the limit with the dialysis, I'm like, well, everybody say I can cook, so I'm going to open a restaurant. So, I mean, this stuff just happened. It just fell into place. I mean, I walked by faith. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money when I stopped singing, but I had to survive. So I went and trained to be a dialysis technician, and I got that gig. And then, like I say, when I got to the top of that, I said, well, I'm going to open a restaurant. And I would go to the place that hired us in St. Louis called the Club Imperial. And I called him up and asked him, did he have any of those chairs left when we was with Ike and Tina? He said, yeah. And he sold them to me. So I took that stuff and opened up my first restaurant on West Florissant. And it became so successful that I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like a shock. I didn't know what I was doing. I was walking by faith. And it worked. It worked. And so then every once in a while I sing and do a concert. But now the restaurant business is my main source. So I'm putting everything I got into it to make it successful. And it did. It became a tourist attraction. People came from all over the world. And so that went on. I ended up opening about maybe 10 restaurants. And it became, COVID came. So kind of broke everything up in the restaurant business. Then I moved to Jackson, Mississippi. The water.
Wait a minute, you skipped over a real big piece of your life, which is you became Oprah Winfrey's biggest star on her network with your show, Welcome to Sweetie Pie's. What, 7, 8 seasons, 2 NAACP Image Awards?
We actually did 100 episodes, 2 Image Awards. Well, I was 72 then. So that was maybe my 3rd restaurant when they approached. In fact, just last week, the same company approached me and asked me, was I interested in doing another TV show? And I'm like, yeah, so that might be coming. I don't know. And then I'm in the process of opening another restaurant. So that kind of sums up. I'm still working. I'm still singing. Every once in a while, I throw a little song out there to stay relevant. And still looking for that hit, which every singer's looking for that hit. And at my age, I'm still at it. I'm not giving up. I've realized dreams or visions, and you can have them forever, but you have to do other things to survive. And so that's where I am. I'm in a survival mode.
When you see someone like Martha Stewart at 81, 82 years old on the cover of Sports Illustrated in a bathing suit and throughout this magazine in different bathing suits, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great because I could be on the cover. I mean, not being, patting myself on the back, but I could actually be on the cover where they don't show the midriff and all the after stuff. But I am just supportive of that. Give us 80-year-old people a chance to do the same thing that the young people are doing. Now, if you don't have it, don't pursue it. But if you think you got it, go after it.
I just love your attitude about life because you're saying, look, hey, go for it, Martha. Go, girl. And you can be on a cover, too. I mean, you look absolutely phenomenal. Both those of you who are listening on radio can't see her. Those of you who are watching this streaming can see how gorgeous she is. But I just love your can-do attitude, your attitude that age doesn't define who you are. Like you said, if you still have dreams and vision for your life, you pursue it no matter what age you are. What does that drive come from? Because so many people feel like, oh my God, I'm 60, I'm 65, I'm 70, life is over, I got to retire. What does your drive come from that gets you up every morning and keeps you going?
Well, I watch things that happen in the world, and I don't think there's nothing that's happening today couldn't happen to me, bad or good, indifferent. But my goal and my vision is to do what I want. I love my singing, but I know now I have to survive in the restaurant business is how I survive. But I'm not stopping my dream because, like I said, as long as you dream, then you got something to look forward to, and you could have it forever. If you never make it, it doesn't matter because that's your dream and that's what your vision, that's what you're going for. But at some point, you have to realize, well, this is not working, but what can I do to survive until this happens? So that's my outlook on life. If I can get up every day, walk and talk and do all that stuff, then I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission. Today, I probably did maybe 15 things today. Going to Home Depot, going to see my brother, going to the store, just 15 things. When I look up, the day is gone and I'm waiting on tomorrow.
How many 80-year-old friends do you have that live the kind of active life that you live?
None.
So you hang out with young women, huh?
I hang with the young people because that's all that's around me is young people. Either the people that work for me or other actors or entertainers or something like that. And they all happen to be younger than I am, but sometimes they make me feel old, but I don't mind being old because wisdom comes with age. So I don't have a problem with that, but I don't have any 80-year-old people that I hang with. None whatsoever.
Wow. Well, all right, Miss Robbie, I am hoping that you can bottle up some of that energy. You can sell it to the rest of the world because you and Martha Stewart got it going on. And I can't wait for you to get your swimsuit cover. Martha has paved the way and opened the door. So I know extraordinary Black women like you are going to follow. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and sharing your relationship with Tina Turner, sharing your vision and your dream of how you keep going at 82 and keep showing the world that age is nothing but a number. Again, I'm in conversation with restaurateur extraordinaire, star of Sweetie Pie. Welcome to Sweetie Pie's own solo performing artist and all around fabulous Robbie Montgomery right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us. Robin Ayers and the Raw Report is next.
Thank
you. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Ikettes, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for Black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of Black audiences are concerned about the lack of Black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the Black